It feels like for the past maybe 10 years, technology has been stagnating. We've been iterating and iterating, but we haven't really been innovating. Until now, 2024 seems to be the year that companies are pulling out all the stops. We're rethinking the devices that we use every day, for better or for worse. So today I'd like to go through some of the groundbreaking devices that we're expecting this year from a more philosophical standpoint. How are these devices going to change what we do, and will they actually succeed? Let's get into it right after a word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by 8 Sleep, and that's in more ways than one because their new Pod 3 is allowing me to feel more rested and therefore make better content. 8 Sleep has been garnering lots of attention, and for good reason. The Pod 3 fits on your existing mattress like a fitted sheet and brings with it some insane sleep tech. Seamless sensors, in conjunction with a water reservoir and heating and cooling pipes, track your sleep and health data, and it uses that information to ensure you have the best sleep possible. Pod 3 can adjust the real-time temperature of your side of the bed, that's right, it has 2 zones, and can adapt to changes in your environment. See, the body naturally adjusts temperature at night, but mattresses tend to trap heat, but not Pod 3, because this thing is water-cooled and heated. With that quad-core compute module, it will create a perfect temperature curve to keep you in the best quality sleep and help you wake up feeling refreshed. It's been proven to give you 34% more deep sleep with fewer wake-ups. To learn more about 8 Sleep and the Pod 3, check out the link in the description below. A big thanks to them for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. So if you're a company right now and you want to make a new product that is new and trendy and exciting, there's a very good chance it's going to have to feature one key thing: AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence.
The Rabbit R1, the Humane AI Pin, the Windows Copilot AI Key. Heck, there's even rumors that Apple is planning on revamping Siri to take advantage of AI. So AI is clearly the big topic of discussion right now, but it's not the only one, because Apple is introducing Vision Pro, a completely radical departure from everything the company has been doing for the past 10 plus years. So this is a very transformative time to be interested in technology, whether it's AI, spatial computing, or even just the increased advancement of GPU and CPU technology. I mean, things are going crazy right now. But a lot of it does make me wonder, is this actually a revolutionary moment, or are we experiencing tech burnout? Let's go back a couple of years. Let's say 2016. This was a pretty low point in smartphone technology. We had exploding Samsungs, we were getting rid of the headphone jack.
Courage.
The butterfly keyboard made its way to a very unpopular series of MacBook Pro, and Intel chips were at the peak of their stagnation. It's times like this where small YouTubers such as myself, who at the time only had 1,000 subscribers, were able to get big views talking about buying a cheap laptop on eBay that was just as good as a new one. Fortunately, that stagnation period seems to be behind us now, but it makes you wonder if we've overcompensated. Are we just trying new stuff for the sake of it? Well, let's examine a couple of key points here. I want to start with Vision Pro. Now, I'm filming this before Vision Pro even comes out, so I want to point out that we still don't really know that much about the use cases that this thing could offer. And a lot of people have been rightly pointing out that at launch, it seems to be somewhat limited. There's not a ton of applications, and that means that a lot of its launch capability is dependent on Apple's native software. You can mirror the screen from your Macintosh in a larger window. You can watch movies on a massive screen in a virtual environment, and you can FaceTime your friends and have them floating in the room with you. All very cool, but deserving of a $3,500 starting price. But let's not forget that this is not Apple's first rodeo with shaking up an industry. When the iPhone came out in 2007, there were many similar criticisms. Let me read you through a couple of comments after Apple announced the iPhone 17 years ago. Apparently none of you guys realize how bad of an idea a touchscreen is on a phone. I foresee some pretty obvious and major problems here. I'm not impressed with the iPhone. As a PDA user and a Windows Mobile user, this thing has nothing on my phone. It sure is good at what it was designed for, a phone that entertains and talks. Other than that, I don't see much potential. Lol, last I checked, many companies tried to tap to type and tap to dial. It doesn't work, Stevie. People don't like non-tactile typing. It's a simple fact. And that last one is a particularly good example of how short-sighted people can be when it comes to new technology, because when the iPhone came out, people are focused on, oh, well, when I dial a phone number, I don't want to tap the screen. But think about it in the context of now. How often are people even dialing phone numbers? The iPhone basically made phone calls obsolete. Why would you want to do that when you can video chat or log into social media accounts that, thanks to the App Store, became portable? It's just very funny to look back with the benefit of hindsight. However, just because the iPhone was able to do it doesn't mean that all technology revolutions will necessarily have that same impact. I, for example, look at the Rabbit R1 and the Humane AI Pin with a little bit more skepticism. To a certain degree, you have to divorce your viewpoints from the opinions and features of the product and look more at the concept of the product. And to my eye, the purpose for the Humane Pin or the R1 seems less clear. Both stake their claim as a counterpoint to the smartphone addiction that most people recognize we now face as a society. But the way that they propose tackling it is a little confusing. In the case of the AI Pin, we're replacing Googling things on your phone with tapping a pin on your shirt and speaking in natural language and getting a response. And the Rabbit R1 intends to consolidate all of your apps and essentially function as a personal assistant that's capable of running things for you to reduce clutter. And both of those are undoubtedly interesting concepts, but I do wonder how many people will actually be open to replacing a smartphone to try one of those devices. The AI Pin, for example, requires a $24 a month subscription and a dedicated phone number, which means if it's not your primary, your only communication device, you're gonna need 2 phone numbers. That just seems unnecessarily complicated, not to mention the fact that people have pointed out relying on AI doesn't always mean you're going to get accurate information. In Humane's own video, they asked the Pin to calculate the amount of protein in a handful of almonds, but users on Twitter pointed out that that amount of protein would require about 60 almonds, far more than they actually showed. In fact, on YouTube, Humane edited the video from these almonds to a half a cup of almonds to cover their tracks. In my view, it seems like the Rabbit R1 has a more clear focus because they're not trying to completely do away with screens altogether. They're trying to consolidate the apps that we all use.
The smartphone was supposed to be intuitive, but with hundreds of apps on your phone today that don't work together, it no longer is.
And that's a great point. You know, when the iPhone came out, it didn't even have an app store, but since then, apps have become the primary means of interacting with our phones to the point that it's frankly overwhelming. So with the Rabbit R1, you can sign in to all of the apps that you want to use online and then just communicate what you would like the device to do and let it figure out the details. That sounds like a great idea. I do wonder how it will work in practice. We're definitely going to need to wait and see. But again, that could end up introducing issues as much as it solves them. What happens if you're out on the move with your R1 device and you're like, oh crap, I need to download a new app or sign into something I haven't used in a while. The R1 requires you to do that online, which means you'd have to carry a phone or wait until you get home. And there's similar reason to be concerned with Apple's new Vision Pro headset. This is by far the riskiest move that Apple has made in the last 10 to 15 years. It's not just a new product category, it's a completely new type of product that Apple's calling a spatial computer. But the big question that I and a lot of people have is, what are we actually going to do with this thing? 2.5 hours of battery life mean it's not going to be something that you're bringing with you on the go constantly. It's probably going to be used indoors at home or at work. And if you're working in those spaces, it seems to be a pretty cool way to expand beyond the traditional four-corner screen mentality. But if you watch through Apple's keynote, a lot of the functionality of Vision Pro is just putting apps and windows all around you instead of on a single screen. And that's not inherently a bad thing. In fact, I think it could be very useful. But what we're starting to see already just a little bit is companies taking the augmented reality aspect and capitalizing on it, putting actual objects in the world around you. This, I think, is starting to look a little promising, and I'm hoping that we'll see a lot of these themes get developed as the device comes out. There's a lot of risks being taken by a lot of companies, and there's a lot of reasons to be both excited and concerned. I don't want to make it sound like I'm spreading fear over all of these new products, because there's one thing that we can't possibly account for, no matter how many hot takes you read or watch. All of these are first generation products that have not been tested with public support. They are companies' visions of what we might want, but they don't reflect our actual input yet. But let's not forget what happens when technology companies can iterate based on people's feedback. I mean, this is Apple's first laptop from 1989, and this is their second ever laptop. Look how much changes in just one generation. These things are less than 3 years apart. In 1989, Apple built what they thought people would want, a no compromises, fully upgradable desktop replacement with a mechanical keyboard that really doesn't sacrifice anything from their desktops at the time. But by 1991, they learned that what people actually wanted was a portable device with maybe somewhere to put your palms when you're typing, and maybe something that could actually fit inside of a briefcase instead of being a briefcase. And sure, yes, there were advancements in technology that facilitated that process, but this guy actually gave up some features from the Macintosh Portable, like having a ton of ports on it and having a mechanical keyboard, in favor of hitting what they found out consumers would actually want in a laptop. I'm sure that this iteration process, whether it be from 35 years ago or right now, is going to take a bit of time. So instead of focusing on what doesn't work about Vision Pro or new AI devices, I'm most curious about what kernel of these products is going to define the next stage of computing. Of course, all of these devices could disappear into obscurity the way that Google Glass and the Windows Phone did, but something about this time period makes me think that that's not likely. I'm very excited to see where we go next, and if you are too, make sure to get subscribed and leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on all of this, and I will see you in the next one.